The observation deck fell silent as the Krithian ambassador's body crumpled to the sterile floor of the training arena. Ravok stood over the corpse, his six-limbed form still coiled with predatory tension, bioluminescent ridges pulsing a victorious crimson along his serpentine spine. The cub, though cub was a generous term for a creature that massed 300 kilograms of muscle, fang, and razor-sharp instinct, had killed with the efficiency his species was engineered for. Around the arena, holographic displays flickered with biometric data. Heart rate, 0. Neural activity, terminated. Time of death, 1447 Galactic Standard. The 23rd trainer in 18 cycles. Mira Kael didn't flinch. She stood in the reinforced observation booth, arms crossed. Her expression carved from disappointment so profound it seemed to radiate through the transparasteel barrier. Her dark eyes that had stared down stellar anomalies and negotiated with species that considered humans little more than curious vermin, fixed on Ravok with an intensity that made the apex predator's triumphant display falter. The cub's ridges flickered from crimson to uncertain amber. "Really?" Mira's voice came through the arena's comm system, flat and unimpressed. Not angry, not afraid, just disappointed. That single word did what 16 different containment protocols, shock collars, and neural inhibitors had failed to accomplish. Ravok's massive head lowered, his 12 eyes, arranged in precise geometric patterns across his skull, dimmed. The killing claws that had just shattered Krithian exoskeleton retracted with a soft snick, and then, impossibly, the apex predator whimpered. The sound was wrong. Evolutionary biologists across 3 spiral arms had documented Ravok's species extensively. Apex predators didn't whimper. They roared. They challenged. They dominated. Their neural architecture literally lacked the pathways for submission or regret. They'd been gene-sculpted by the ancient architects to be perfect killing machines, deployed to hostile worlds to establish dominance before colonization. Yet here was Ravok, a creature designed to feel nothing but hunger and territorial aggression, producing a sound that could only be described as plaintive. Mira sighed and pressed the release for the arena door. The dozen security officers in the booth tensed, hands moving to weapons that everyone knew were useless against an apex predator in close quarters. Commander Thexil, the station's voracious security chief, made a chittering sound of alarm. "Trainer Kael, protocol required the last 23 trainers too," Mira interrupted, already moving toward the door. "Look how well that worked out." She entered the arena without hesitation, her footsteps echoing in the vast space designed to contain beings that could shred starship hulls. Ravok remained frozen, his posture a study in conflicted instinct. Every evolutionary imperative screamed at him to attack, to kill, to establish dominance. The chemicals flooding his system demanded blood, but Mira looked disappointed. She walked past the ambassador's body without sparing it a glance. There would be time for diplomatic incidents later, and stopped 3 meters from Ravok. Close enough to be within his strike range, close enough that his species' thermal sensors could read every minute change in her body temperature, could detect the steady calm of her heartbeat. Humans weren't supposed to be calm around apex predators. The galactic community had learned that humans were capable of surprising things. Their ability to form pack bonds with species that should have been incompatible, their bizarre tendency to categorize lethal organisms as cute, their absolute refusal to accept that some challenges were insurmountable. But this was different. This was a human treating a bioweapon like a misbehaving child. "We've talked about this," Mira said quietly. Her tone carried the weight of patience worn thin, the sound of someone repeating a lesson they'd explained too many times. "What did we discuss about keeping your claws retracted during greetings?" Ravok's whimper intensified. His massive head lowered further until his primary eyes were level with Mira's chest. The bioluminescent patterns across his hide shifted to deep violet, a color that wasn't supposed to exist in his species' emotional spectrum. I know the ambassador smelled like prey, Mira continued, taking another step closer. Now she was well within killing distance, standing in the shadow of a creature that outmassed her 8-to-1. And I know your instincts were screaming at you, but you're better than your instincts, Ravok. We've been working on this. The apex predator made a sound like grinding metal mixed with a cat's mule, another impossibility for his species. His crystalline claws scraped against the floor in what observers in the booth recognized, with mounting disbelief, as a submissive gesture. Mira reached out and placed her hand on the ridge of his skull, between the cluster of primary eyes. Ravok froze, every muscle locked. In the observation booth, Commander Thexil stopped breathing entirely. Then, slowly, the apex predator's ridges shifted to soft blue. There we go, Mira murmured, her disappointment finally easing into something gentler. I know it's hard. Your species was never supposed to care about disappointing anyone, but you do care, don't you? Ravok's whimper became a rumbling purr, a sound no apex predator had ever made. A sound that would require the rewriting of xenobiology textbooks across the galaxy. That's what makes you different, Mira said, and now there was pride in her voice. You're not just following your programming, you're choosing. She looked up at the observation booth, at the security officers with their useless weapons, and the diplomats already calculating the political fallout. Someone clean up the ambassador and send my apologies to the Crithian collective. Tell them we'll need another 6 cycles before Ravok is ready for integration protocols. Commander Thexil's voice crackled over the comm. Trainer Kale, the Council has authorized termination of the specimen. This is the 23rd. The Council can authorize whatever they want, Mira interrupted, her hand still resting on Ravok's skull. But they sent me here because I'm the only one who's ever successfully domesticated a species classified as irredeemable. So either let me work or find someone else who can make an apex predator feel guilty about murder. Silence answered her, because there was no one else. Across the galactic community, humans had gained a reputation for the impossible, for looking at creatures designed to be weapons and seeing potential for something more, for taking organisms that evolution or engineering had made into perfect killers and teaching them to choose mercy, for making monsters whimper at disappointment. Mira scratched behind Ravok's auditory ridge, earning another impossible purr. Come on, big guy. Let's go practice your greeting protocols, and this time we'll use the holographic trainers. No more real ambassadors until you can consistently keep your claws retracted. As she led the apex predator from the arena, the creature that had killed 23 professional trainers following her like an oversized, lethal puppy, the observers in the booth could only watch in stunned silence. Humans, Commander Thexil muttered, shaking his cephalopod head. They're all insane. But watching Mira Kyle guide a reformed killing machine toward the training corridors, speaking to it in the same disappointed but loving tone one might use with a misbehaving dog, the commander couldn't help but wonder if maybe insanity was exactly what the galaxy needed. After all, only humans would look at an apex predator and see not a weapon, but a student who just needed better guidance. Only humans would respond to murder with disappointment instead of fear. And only a human could make a creature designed to know nothing but violence desperately seek approval instead.